James Gunn and Peter Safran finally revealed their plans for the future of the DC Universe at the end of January 2023. The DC Studios co-chairs unveiled their 8 to 10 year slate for a new, more integrated DC Universe across TV, movies, animation, and even video games. But what do these new lofty plans mean for the superheroes whose fate is still a bit uncertain? Luckily, James Gunn discusses why Henry Cavill and others were cut from the DCEU. And while he was at it, he also reassured us about the future of some of our heroes. From Zachary Levi's recent anti-vaccination controversy to whether it's the end of the line for Ezra Miller. Let's dive in, because we learned quite a few things from Gunn and Safran's press event. Not in the least what the slate is looking like for the moment. In the coming years, we can expect Waller, which is a TV spinoff which will see Viola Davis back as her intimidating Amanda Waller, who oversees the Suicide Squad. Paradise Lost, a brand new HBO Max series set in the birthplace of Wonder Woman, the Myskura. It's supposed to be some kind of elaborate political costume drama in the same vein as Game of Thrones. It's also set to take place between two Wonder Woman movies. I think this could indicate that Gal Gadot hasn't been shown to the door just yet. Gunn is also writing an entirely new Superman movie that promises to reintroduce Superman on the screen. It's titled Superman Legacy. Apparently, the project is also seen as the primary launch of the DCU, or, in other words, the true beginning for the brand new DC. And then there's titles like The Brave and the Bold and Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. In addition, there's also a sequel to 2022's The Batman in the works. Robert Pattinson is set to reprise his role as the Dark Knight again, and Matt Reeves will be back in the director's chair as well. But the Batman isn't actually part of this newly brewed DC universe. The Batman exists under an entirely new label, which has been dubbed Elseworlds. Now, there's a lot more on the slate that Gunn and Safran have puzzled together to elevate the DC universe to Marvel Cinematic Universe heights. But before we get all caught up in all the shiny new things, there are still some issues to be discussed revolving around this year's selection of movies. I'm talking about Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is set to be released on the 17th of March, 2023, The Flash, which will premiere on the 16th of June, 2023, Blue Beetle, set to premiere on the 18th of August, 2023, and lastly, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which will be released at the end of the year on Christmas Day, the 25th of December, 2023. So, what did the big boss have to say about these projects and their respective heroes? In short, when Gunn was asked whether the four leads of these four movies would potentially return to their roles in future DC Universe projects, he replied with, "There is nothing that prohibits that from happening." But really? Nothing? Because I don't know if you've heard, but Zachary Levi hasn't exactly made himself popular in recent days. Levi shocked fans when he quote tweeted Lyndon Wood, a British TV host, who had asked who agrees that Pfizer is a real danger to the world. In case you didn't know, Pfizer is one of the big pharmaceutical companies that manufactures vaccines for COVID-19. Hardcore agreed, the Shazam actor tweeted in response. While this clearly isn't a blanket statement against all vaccinations, many have interpreted Levi's statement as an expression of anti-vaccination sentiment nonetheless. Gunn was asked to offer his opinion on Levi's tweet during the press event, but the filmmaker isn't exactly a stranger to Twitter backlash himself. After all, Disney originally fired Gunn, kicking him off Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 years ago. At the time, Gunn had made a bit of an unfortunate joke which stirred up some controversy. So, to Gunn, agreeing with someone and making a business decision aren't mutually exclusive. I can't be changing my plans all the time because an actor says something that I don't agree with. At the same token, if someone does something morally reprehensible, that's a different story. So it seems that Gunn doesn't think that Levi's tweet, though extremely poorly timed, isn't reason to give up on the actor just yet. But what about Ezra Miller and The Flash? Well, as far as the movie itself is concerned, The Flash is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. So there's that, which is great news, of course. We've all been waiting for years to see Miller's The Flash. But after Miller got himself into some trouble, his future as the titular hero has been a little uncertain. Some have even called for them to be removed from the project entirely. It's not like it would be the first time a project gets tossed this far in the process. Batgirl, anyone? And Miller has absolutely gotten himself in enough trouble that no one would be surprised if he would be sacked. Miller has been the center of several criminal investigations and has since pleaded guilty to trespassing. However, they announced in August 2022 that they were seeking treatment for complex mental health issues. And both Safran and Gunn remain hopeful that Miller is now on a path to betterment. Ezra is completely committed to their recovery. We are fully supportive of that journey they are on right now, Gunn said. He added that when the time is right, they'll have a discussion in which they'll try to figure out what the best path forward is. But for now, Miller's recovery is everyone's top priority. But as far as they can see, Miller has been making enormous progress over the last few months. Of course, Miller should see some consequences for his action. But if these situations were really triggered by some kind of mental health issue, if it's not a case of compounded issues, it's actually nice to hear that Miller will be given the opportunity to redeem himself, don't you think? So despite the fact that the odds are stacked heavily against Miller, his career in the DC universe doesn't have to be over just yet either. And finally, we land on Henry Cavill, because his name has been going around the rumor mill more than I can take this last year. But that didn't mean that I wanted it to stop completely. Sadly, it does seem like Cavill's time as Superman is truly over. Gunn reiterated once again that Henry Cavill will not return to reprise his role as Clark Kent. But he did add something rather interesting to that as well. They didn't fire Cavill. He was never hired by them in the first place. I like Henry. I think he's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around by a lot of people, including the former regime at this company. You heard that right. Gunn is fully blaming the former regime for all the confusion that had been surrounding Cavill and Superman. As you know, Gunn and Safran have high hopes for the future of the DCU, but that has meant that sacrifices had to be made, and Henry Cavill as Superman is one of them, for the simple reason that he doesn't fit into Gunn's plans, which is to bring back a younger version of Clark Kent. But they never tried to string anyone along, least of all Cavill himself. That's all on the former regime. The thing it all comes down to is change isn't always nice, but Gunn and Safran are doing what's best for the future of the new DCU. And that was all on James Gunn discusses why Henry Cavill and others were cut from the DCEU.